Sorry, I'm Ham here, and here is my review of the SWR Silencer Co. Octane 45 HD. SWR was a company that was around. Now they are part of Silencer Co., but they were around, I think they're in South Carolina. Anyways, they made suppressors for a while, and Silencer Co. saw a good thing and absorbed the company, and now they are based in Utah. So this is a 45 caliber suppressor, as you can see. It is a large hole, and let's see if I can show you down the center there, if it will focus properly. But anyways, there's a bunch of baffles in there, and what it is, it's designed for a 45 caliber handgun, like my Glock 21 with a Lone Wolf distributing barrel on it, and it screws on just fine. There you go. When you're screwing it on, Silencer Co. says to screw it all the way on until it's just lightly tight, back it off about a half a turn, and then spin it on like that, so it has a little bit of tension. It'll keep it from loosening up on you. So what I'll also show you are a couple of other firearms that you could screw it onto. So here's a Gen 4 Glock 21. I also have here a Gen 4 Glock 19 with a Lone Wolf distributing barrel on it. And you can also change out the piston in it. I'll show you how to do that in a minute, but obviously the piston is going to screw down on there. It's a 1/2x28 tight fit, and you want it kind of tight. You want a pretty close tolerance threads on there, but that's what the suppressor would look like were it tightened onto that. And try not to damage my gun. So I also have a kind of a bastardized Ruger. They don't sell them like this. I just took the upper off of one and put it on the lower on another, and did a few other modifications to get it to work. But as you see, with a fixed barrel spacer at least, you can also shoot it on the Ruger Mark II pistol. It'll look a little funny on there, not quite as neat as if I were shooting my Silencer Co. Spectre 2, but it'll still work with a fixed barrel spacer. And in fact, it'll work just fine. Alright, so down to what I started looking at originally was the Octane 45, and I'm going to go ahead and disassemble it. That's one of the big advantages to this suppressor, is that you can disassemble it. And in order to do that, you just spin this little keeper nut on here off. And there's a little O-ring in there that keeps it in there. So what you have here is you have a the piston. They also call it a Nielsen device or booster, but I'll call it all three probably: a booster, a piston, or a Nielsen device. Everything is the same. Essentially what it does is it allows the barrel with the piston here attached to recoil away from the suppressor. And what that'll do is it'll allow the gun to function even though it's got that huge weight of the suppressor on the front. It does not, as some say, it does not tilt in any way, shape, or form. It goes directly, sorry, the other way. It goes directly in and directly out. It actually cannot tilt even, I mean, it's not meant to tilt. The barrel tilting function it still has to move the entire suppressor. And so what you'll see in here is what we call the booster housing, and that's just kind of some dead space in there. And I will show you more. What I'll do is I'll take it apart the rest of the way so that you could see. It's actually fairly easy to take apart the rest of the way. You use the piston the piston itself as a wrench. So I don't know if this is the tool they intended, but they do say Allen wrench in some of their videos. So this one is I believe it's a 7/32 Allen wrench, and I'm just going to go ahead and stick that through, and that's just to get some leverage on it, not to torque it down, but to torque it backwards. And once you get it broken loose, it actually comes out. Pretty simple. It's nice that the piston is the wrench instead of having to have a separate wrench, so all you basically need is an Allen wrench or similarly shaped item. Now this baffle stack is going to come out. That's the last baffle. Now this baffle isn't present on the 9mm version. It's all the baffles are the same on there. So we'll pull my baffle stack out and have it fall all over the floor. Get in and get that. Sure, I'm recording still here. So the order of the baffles doesn't really matter on this at all. You can put any baffle anywhere, and they snap apart. So if you can't get it to snap apart, Silencer Co says just put a Allen wrench in there. So I've got my wonderful 7/32 Allen wrench, although smaller would probably work. I'm gonna snap all these apart, and you'll see that there they are. Okay, so got a bunch of baffles. Here's the first baffle, and this baffle doesn't have a little notch in it like these do. See that little notch right there? Maybe a little notch right there. The front one does not have that. The rest of the baffles do. There's one more piece inside of here, and that is called the booster housing, I believe. And in order to get that out, it helps if you have the right tool, which I don't. And give me just a minute. Let me pause the video again. Okay, I forgot myself there. Actually, what I did is I used a 14mm socket. However, I did not need to, because the piston, if you just insert the piston in the back, put the spring around it, and it'll make sense. Insert the piston in the back and you can push it out. But what I pushed out off camera was this. And that, I guess, is the booster housing. The last piston essentially, or the last step essentially in there. And now you can see that the tube is mostly free. This piece here is held on with Loctite. You don't need to take that out, and it's not recommended that you do. If that booster housing right there needs needs disassembly or fixed, send the whole suppressor back to Silencer Co, and they will make it right for you. It's a good idea, and it won't come off just. it's got some red Loctite on it or something pretty strong. So this is actually the suppressor itself. This is a serialized part. And if you have X-ray vision through the YouTube, you can see underneath my little cover there that I have the serial numbers concealed there. So let's look at one of the baffles. These are encapsulated K-style baffles. It's just one way of doing it. There's a bunch of different ways. There's monocores and all that. This is what the way that Silencer Co chooses to do it. And these are actually pretty light, pretty thin-walled. But what they do is they create a barrier between the outer tube and the interior area where all the hot gases and the fouling and everything are going to be. And these fit together really snug, and they keep the dirt and fouling and lead and you know, some what do you call it, ablative materials, water if you want to shoot it wet, or this wire pulling gel, which is what I use, so that it doesn't get to the outside tube. So the silencer should come apart fairly easy. The baffle should come out fairly easy. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 if you count the final baffle plus the end cap. So that's a good amount of baffling. You can shoot 9mm through it, as I showed you with a Glock 19. You can shoot 22 long rifle, as I showed you. 22 tends to be a little bit dirty, but since you could take it apart, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put it back together now. First thing you want to do is you want to slide this back in. Now this goes with the teeth there should be towards the front of the suppressor. So it slides in and around the booster housing, you'll see there. So it goes all the way in. And as you see, those teeth kind of stick out into the booster housing a little bit. Since it's loose, I can just push those out that way. But when it's not loose, So it is it is loose. Let me put something in there to hold it in there. So when it's not loose, what you can do is you can use your piston like I was showing you earlier, and you can push it out that way. That will push it out fairly good. The reason you put the spring around it is to keep the piston from damaging the side of the booster housing. So you put it in there with the spring and just pop it out. If it's more difficult than that, if you get a dowel that's the proper size, it's about about an inch, roughly, I guess. If you get whatever, something that'll go down inside of there to push that this assembly out, then that's how you do it. So I'm going to put it back together again. You put it with the little teeth there going towards the front of the suppressor, and I'm going to mash it down. You see it'll go just a little bit. Yeah, you couldn't feel that, I guess, but that makes it tight in there. It's a pretty tight fit. And then what I'll do is I'll assemble my baffle stack. Now I'm going to try and assemble them right here for you. I'm going to try and line all the notches up. So I'm going to push or have the notches going towards me. There's 3, 4. They want you to line all the notches up. That's how they tell you to do it. 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then the 9th one will slip over the top there. Actually, I've got that backwards. The 9th one will slip over the bottom there, but I'm not going to put that in until the rest of them go in there. So the pointy edge towards the back of the receiver, or the back of the suppressor. So it just slides in like that, real nice, and down in there. And then I'll put the last baffle in, and it's down in there. Just screw the end cap on. This is the way I see all kinds of people doing it, and I can see it's fairly quick. And what you want to do is when you get it down close, there's actually a little bit more to go to compress all those baffles. And then the last little bit, of course, you want to do by hand. You don't want to use a tool initially until you get it all the way down. There you go. And you can kind of feel where it stops. It doesn't have any further to go. So I'm going to do it not overly tight. You don't want it super tight because you don't want to have to break it down, and it'll be difficult to break down if you do that. So now the suppressor's got a little bit of heft. Now that's the baffle stack and the end cap. On to the housing. This has a little O-ring inside of it. If you could see, there's that little O-ring down inside of it. Now that O-ring engages with the sides of the piston, so it makes it a little bit difficult to get in. Now the reason the O-ring is there is because of these grooves here, and these grooves here engage the O-ring, and they keep the piston from spinning as the gun is firing. And that's important because these little teeth have a certain orientation that they have to be down inside of the booster housing. And there's corresponding notches inside of there that those teeth have to go into. Now, the teeth disengage immediately when they go back just about that far. So at that point, the piston can spin around, and then it goes down. See that? So you don't want it to spin, because if it spins on you, it can get stuck out a little bit, and that's not a good thing. If it gets stuck out a little bit, then the booster isn't going to work correctly, and you might get malfunctions, and you probably will get malfunctions. So in order to stop that, that's what these little grooves are here for, and that's what the O-ring is here for. So if you're getting your piston spinning on you and getting locked like that and causing malfunctions, change out your O-ring. It's that simple. If that doesn't work, then call Silencer Co. because you've got other problems. It might be with your gun, your particular host. If you're using a host that's got a rotating barrel, like the Beretta full-size, what do they call that? A Beretta's got a pistol, I forget what it's called. I'll put it in the comments up here. The Beretta's got a pistol with a rotating barrel. If your pistol has a rotating barrel, what it can do is it can rotate while and it'll rotate while the piston is engaged, and then it'll send it all out of whack. So you don't want to do that. So normally you can interchange pistons, and I have two size pistons. I've got the .578 by half by 28 is that one. I got the .578 by 28 and a half by 28. And the 578 by 28 is pretty much standard for 45s in America, although you can get different metric, I don't know, 16 millimeter or somewhere around there, different metric pistons for it as well. These are two that fit all the pistols that I want to shoot with it. I do need a fixed barrel adapter like this one for half by 36. I'm guessing I've got 9 millimeter barrels that need that, but this one is 5/8 by 28, and that will be for 300 blackout, or for 308 if you shoot 308 with subsonic ammunition. Your suppressor should hold up fine. It's rated up to 300 blackout, which 308 with subsonic is essentially 300 blackout. I don't plan on using it for that. I do plan on shooting 300 blackout in the future, but I haven't done it yet. So the way you normally assemble it is with the spring over that. Then you put the in cap there, and then you just screw it on like you saw me earlier. Now you screw it down to about here, and you hear a little click there. What that was the teeth engaging. And that last little bit you got to screw on, and there's what you're doing is you're screwing the O-ring on, so there's more resistance, and there should be, and that's what keeps the piston from spinning as the gun is operating. And you want to do it hand tied, and it's fully tightened there. And so let me install it on the gun and show you how that piston works. And I've got the half by 28, so yeah, I put the wrong piston in for my demonstration there, but now you can see it on the Glock 19 instead of the Glock 21. There you go. A little bit difficult again to get started, but you do want that. So tighten it all the way hand tight. It stops. Back it off about a ½ inch, and then whip it around there to where it gets tight. Now what happens is when the gun operates, it'll go back, and then the barrel will tilt. But if it does that and the piston is not working, or there is no piston, what it has to do is it has to drag the entire weight of the suppressor back with it. So that's adding about 12.5 ounces, 13 ounces to the overall weight of what the slide, the barrel, the recoil spring, and all that other gobbledygook that's got to move back. So what the booster does is, as the gun goes off, it pressurizes that booster chamber and allows the booster to push out like that. I know it wasn't in focus. Hopefully I can get it in focus. There we go. So there we go. So it allows the piston to detach from the suppressor. So the suppressor's hanging out in space out here, and the rest of the gun gets to move back without the suppressor, the extra weight of the suppressor. In fact, since the booster is pressurized, it pushes back on the barrel, so it actually adds a little bit of velocity. That timing, depending on the pressure, can cause your gun to be inaccurate, and hey, it's just the nature of the business. You have to find a load that works with your suppressor and whatever condition it's in. If you have a load that works great when you first get the suppressor out, put about 300 rounds through it, everything gets dirty and sloppy, and now it doesn't work, that's just the nature of the beast. You have to tune your loads. You have to find a load that works with everything. And the Glock 19 is pretty easy to suppress. It's not that finicky. There are guns out there that are a lot more finicky than it. So let me demonstrate a few other things. It's a wonderful suppressor. You can put it on submachine guns. They have a 3-lug mount that goes in place of all this stuff. You can put it in. You can put it with the fixed barrel mounts, which are available in half 28, half 36, and 5/8 by 24 like this one, to where you could screw it on to just the end of regular fixed barrels. like the AR-15 half 36 or half 28 for AR-15 9mm versions. Another way you can do it, as I've said in another video, is you can remove the spring, and Silencer Co. sells, I'll use the aluminum ones, Silencer Co. sells these little spacers here. I made these, and you'll see that in another video, which I can link right up here. And what that little spacer does is it replaces the spring. Now Silencer Co.'s it's a lot better finish than mine, but it replaces the spring so that the piston won't actually operate. It just operates essentially like a fixed barrel. You can see more in my other video on how I did that and how that works, but suffice it to say, you can use the piston that's normally meant for a booster for recoil operated pistols, and you can use it with fixed barrel applications, such as if I wanted to screw it onto my fixed barrel Ruger Mark II 2245 Light with a Mark II frame. It's actually a good way to do it, and when that's all screwed together, the piston won't move, and it's all going to be tight. Not to mention the spacer I made, since it doesn't have the giant slots in it, prevents the gas from getting around in this area. It has to go up through and back around into the booster housing area, and that keeps the buildup from building up where the little notches are here, and it'll keep your suppressor cleaner overall. So let me see if I can, I'm going to take that off without hurting myself. So that's another way to do it. Of course you want to use the spring if you're using a recoil operated pistol like the Glock, or you can use a fixed barrel spacer if you're using like a Ruger 1022 or a something where the barrel doesn't have to move for it to operate. Most rifles, for instance, and there are very few pistols that way, and you probably don't own one. If you do, good for you. All right, well, there's again the tri-lug mount that's also available, and all in all, this is a very good suppressor, and it has a very good performance, even with 9mm. With 9mm, since the suppressor is about, the 45 version is about an inch longer than the 9mm version, you have extra volume, and that extra volume helps with the suppressor or the performance, and that is nice because you have one suppressor that you can use for the 45, 9mm, 22, 300 blackout, and 5.7. I mean, there's a couple of dozen calibers that you can use it for. I hope to use it on 44 Magnum, as long as your barrel is at least 18 inches. Silencer Co. says you can use it on full house 44 Magnum, but I plan on using it with not full house loads, but with 300 grain loads, and I don't think I have one. Anyways, 300 grain loads, and the advantage of the 300 grain load is it's 300 grains versus about 220, which is where the 300 blackout tops out. And shooting a 300 grain load isn't going to be give you as much range, but we're only talking about 100 yards here anyways. If you're shooting beyond 100 yards, then you need even more specialized tools than these things. But subsonic 44 Magnum through the SWR Octane 45 is quiet, and it packs a wallop, about 40% greater than the best subsonic 300 blackout loads you're going to get. Plus it's pre-expanded to, well, .429 caliber, so 44 caliber, and you can of course shoot hollow points in it to where you can pretty much anchor whatever you're shooting at, and really effective for hog or for deer hunting where it's legal in in North Carolina, for instance, where I live, or in Texas, or in some other areas. I think Louisiana passed a law that you can hunt with suppressors now, and that's a huge advantage. If you want it even quieter, and you can make it even quieter. If you want it even quieter, you can shoot it with a type of coolant. And what I like to do is use this little applicator, and it's got a little curved tip there, and then you fill it up with wire pulling gel, and it doesn't take that much. It takes maybe about, I don't know, this isn't graduated, but maybe about a quarter of the overall capacity of this thing, and you squirt it down inside of your suppressor, and you can get this with the booster removed. You can what they call stage it, and I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it here. Let me see if I can do this. Staging the coolant. You put it in, make sure you get it beyond that right there, and I'm going to stage it behind the first baffle, and then of course, you know, just inject it in there and leave it. Now the wire pulling gel, the advantage to that instead of water is that you can leave it in there for a while. Wire pulling gel, if you look, you could see it's not moving very fast. That bubble is, you know, it's essentially got the consistency of honey or something in that range. Probably, you know, not quite honey, but as you can see, it's not moving very fast. And what it does is it evaporates and ablates, what they call it. It turns into a vapor inside of the suppressor, and it gives you greater performance when you're shooting for the first, you know, couple of dozen shots perhaps, and it dwindles towards the end. But it can really give you an additional 5, and in some cases even up to 10 decibels of reduction above and beyond what a dry suppressor would do. And the advantage to the SWR Octane HD is that the Octane 45 HD is that you can take it apart and clean it. So all that gunk, if you put it in there and you don't decide to shoot it, like if you're going hunting and the hogs just are really good at hiding that day, you don't want to leave that gunk inside of there. So you just pull it apart and clean that stuff out, and it's fairly simple. And I don't think it'll cause it to rust. It'll just kind of sit in there. It says super fast pulls, easy cleanup, perfect for electrical and datacom pulls, safe with all cable jackets. And of course, they don't tell you that it'll work just fine with suppressors. But this is clear. They sell other colors, but clear is just fine. All right. So I've been here talking to you about the SWR Octane. And if you enjoyed this, please click on the like button. Likes are the way you tell me to keep going and keep on doing what I'm doing. If a video doesn't get any likes, I'm unlikely to want to do another video just like it. If you want to refer back to this, favorite it. If you are wanting to see more videos like this, hit subscribe. If you think your friends might like it, click share. And if you have any questions, go ahead and put a comment down in the comment section, and I will try to answer it. So Ryan Ham, I appreciate your viewership. Bye.